Hello YouTube! Hello! And we're back again, of course, as we always are. And this time, it's Thursday. And Thursday means labbing day. We're gonna do a speed lab. And speed lab is gonna be about Victor, obviously, if you look at the screen. Because Victor actually got pretty decent buffs in Season 3, and we're gonna talk about them. I don't think you're actually gonna see a lot of increase of the player base of Victors in general, because Victor's not that popular of a character, but he is a very, very strong character if you ask me. So let's talk about Season 3 Victor. So first change we're going to talk about is going to be the new move that he actually got, and the new move that he did get was this move right here. I'm back to. Victor was one of the few characters in Season 3 that actually got a new move, that was very useful, by the way. And this move is very, very good because it is normally like this, which is -5 mid, pretty fast, and it's also chargeable to become 28 frames fast and also plus. But it's not only this, it also goes into a stance. Now let's talk about this move a little bit in detail. So what this move does is that normally without the charge or anything, this can be stepped to one direction, but usually it can be sidewalked more, and in the neutral it's gonna be even harder to step, right? It can be steppable to the left, depending on the situation, right? You can step it, but it can be rough sometimes, and sometimes you'll be able to do it a little bit easier. But the good thing about this move, the strongest part about this move, is that you cannot step this to the right. Now, why is this so important? This is important because you usually do want to step Victor to the right. This side right here, this is where you want to step Victor. But since this move fully tracks, you cannot step this, by the way. You just can't do it. It's a very, very good move for Victor to cover that side. Very good move. It basically covers a weakness, obviously, right? Covers a weakness. Okay, and this is also true, by the way, for the charge-up version of the move. So the slow version. The slow version also, just like I said, you can't step this to the left. It's easier to step the slow version to the left. But there is no way that you step this to the right. Absolutely no way. No matter the distance, no matter where you are, it doesn't matter. This, unless it whips because of a backdash, basically like that, right? That's a backdash whip. This will track you. Most of the time, this will track you. So you have to be very, very careful about sidestepping a little bit too much, especially sidewalking too much against this move. Okay, that's about the properties in the neutral. All right, let's talk about the block property. So on block, you guys already saw that it is plus, right? It is +3 on the charge up and -5 without it. But the part you guys have to remember is not this, but the fact that you can actually go into a stance afterwards, because this is what you're gonna see almost all the time, especially after the charge up. This you won't see that much, even though this is very good as well, because the transition is very fast. It is very, very fast, so you have to react to it very quickly. One thing I would advise you guys to do after this transition without the charge up is to do a check, like a quick check, like a jab, down jab, a fast down forward 1, 12 frame check, whatever, right? Just do a quick check here so the Victor player doesn't really get much momentum off of this. But you also have to remember that the Victor player can high crush, so be careful about doing highs. But the most important thing, as I already said, is gonna be the charge up into the stance. And this charge up into the stance is important because it's a +4 situation now. So Victor is +4 here, and you're kinda in a guessing situation, right? The guessing situation here is either this low, this mid, let's say, right? Which is the heat engager, a tracking move, which you know they can do, or a plus frame mid. There's a lot of options in this stance, so you have to be very, very careful. But what you have to be the most aware of is what he checks you with. What he checks you with here is gonna be stance 2-2. So this into this, that, right? Stance 2-2. So this will basically catch you if you try to do literally anything here. You sidestep, this will catch you. If you try to jab, this will catch you. If you try to down jab, this will catch you. It's a mid check, right? There's nothing that you can do about this, and you can't even parry it. It's a weapon, right? What you have to do is power crush through this. There is absolutely no way you can do anything about this move, which is a broken check. This is what I would call a broken check. There's a lot of broken checks, especially stance checks in this game, and this is one of them. This is very, very strong. The reason why is because the moment you block this, so you block this move, right? This move, it is -4 and goes into this stance, EI stance. So this is basically another mix-up stance you have to worry about, and this mix-up stance has a lot of plus frames, a lot of good, very good checks, and also a hell sweep, right? So you don't want that. And your first reaction might be, okay, let's just, press a button out of it. But the problem with pressing a button out of it is that this mid check has 2 mind games attached to it. Maybe 3, actually. So the thing about this is that this has an extension with a high. So if you immediately press, let's say I press, because I don't want to get mixed up by the EI stance, I will get counter launched by the high. Okay, it's a high. You can deal with it, right? You can duck the high. But that's not the only mix-up. The other mix-up that this also has is that this has a mid follow-up. So if you do duck the high, let's say you do duck the high, you're gonna get hit by the mid. And this mid has a follow-up as well, as will deal almost 50 damage, like 40 something damage. So this is a mix-up, two-way mix-up of either ducking, not ducking, and gaining stance mixed. It's 3-way mix-up, I guess. Right? So this check is very, very strong, and you kind of have to expect it, right? It's so good that you kind of have to expect it, and you have to play the mind games for it as well. The mind games being expect the high, expect the mid, or expect the stance transition. And when it comes to a stance transition, that stance also has a power crush into it, so there's a lot to remember there. Right? There's a lot to remember, and this is the case for a lot of stance characters in general, because it's just how it works. Like, for example, this sequence that showcased this 2-2 power crush, right? Let's say you try to press, you react to this and try to press, it won't really work. Or you don't react to it and you trips immediately. Okay, jabs work, but you actually can't counter hit him off of this, like with the down forward 2 or a little bit slower button. So this is super strong, while this mid also works as a mid mix up as well and does a lot of damage. 38 damage for a power crush is a lot. It is a lot of damage. So you have to be very careful in this situation, and you kind of have to respect Victor here. And yeah, it's a very rough situation basically. But yeah, let's keep going. This move, the reason why it's so good is because of that stance transition, and because that stance has such a busted check like the stance 2-2. I think the stance is called Perfumer. That's why it's so strong. The 2-2 is basically an unbeatable check most of the time, unless you play a very specific character. Maybe Yoshimitsu will be able to beat it with a flash. Okay, so the next change was 1+2. Actually got changed. This is +4 now instead of +2. And the distance was slightly reduced. This won't change too much, but you have to remember that you're a little bit more minus here, so mashing is a little bit less okay. I used to mash here on hit because it was +2. Now it's +4, so you have to be a little bit more careful, but yeah, not that big of a change. The other one was, for the defender, doesn't really matter that much. This is +14 now instead of +13, which means that Victor actually gets this guaranteed now. It's just a 14 frame move. He didn't have to get this guaranteed, so for Victor players, this is a huge buff. And this move is very good because it's a tracking high, obviously. Right? And it's just -2. It's a very good move, does good chip damage, and you will be able to wall splat at the wall, so you have to be very careful about this. The other change, which was a very big change by the way, was changes to his EI1 and up forward 1 in general. So up forward 1 became +4 from +1, right? This move. This used to be +1, now it's +4, which means that on hit, you're still, you still can't do anything. Not like you could anyway, but you can't do anything. But the biggest change here was not that, but the unblock property becoming -9. By the way, this move and the EI1, it's the same move. So this is -9 now, and used to be -12. You could actually punish this if you had the right read. Now you can't. Your reads don't matter anymore. You cannot punish this. Not like anyone was punishing this anyway because of how busted the situation is, which I will explain. But yeah, this is what happened, and the situation also changed for this stance transition. This used to be -10, now it's -9. As I said, no one was gonna punish this anyway, but it did change. It did change it. Because now you can check way easier. For example, if they're not blocking, if you do something like this, this is +4 now instead of +3, right? And this is very important because you could jab here, and this would trade, by the way, if you jabbed. But now a jab is gonna lose to it. Let me actually showcase this, right? Let me get hit by this. Let's say you got hit by this, and you try to jab. Now it's a counter hit instead of trading, and let's say you might have to go back to neutral for trading, but doesn't anymore. So this is a very big change, not only because of this, but because of how usable EI1 is, and up forward 1 in general. Now, EI1, the reason why it's so usable also is because of the next change, which is EI4. So this low used to be +3, which was the same situation as this +3. So if they did the EI1 to check you, a jab would actually trade here. So it wasn't too bad. You could actually do something, at least. But now you can't do that either, which means the 1 will 100% check you if you try to do anything other than the power crush. Other than power crush was 100% check you, but you can move out of it. So I'll talk about this a little bit later. But let's talk about 4 first. So this is +4 now, which means the situation is way, way worse because this check, you can't really jab out of this, as I talked about this. And not only that, but on block, it's -12 now. And as a Kazuya player, I definitely despise this. Because this move has a high follow-up that jails on hit. You can't block this on hit. So it's super strong, and it's also a mix-up on block, while also being -12, while also dealing 17 damage. That's a lot of damage. 17 damage. So it's a very, very, very strong low that I don't know why they buffed. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know why they buffed this. This was one of the biggest buffs in my opinion. This and EI1 buffs were like insane. Absolutely insane to me. But let's talk about the situation, right? What actually changes. So one thing I did tell you guys that the jab, you can't really jab here because it's not gonna trade anymore. So you have to be careful. Jabbing can still work depending on what you kind of read that the Victor player is gonna do, but yeah, I wouldn't really advise it too much. But what's actually gonna happen if they do, you know, the predictable 1? Let's say they do the 1-1 here, right? Here, you can't jab this, as I already explained, but what can you actually do? One thing you can do is power crush, which Kazuya's power crush doesn't really work here because of its speed. I get hit anyway, but yeah. So let's try sidestepping. So sidestep right does not work here. It will not work. If you do want to sidestep this move, you have to sidestep to the left. Right? So sidestep block to the left would be a very, very good thing to do. If they do finish this string, you will be able to punish it normally. Right? But the problem here is that EI1 does not have one transition. EI1 actually has millions of transitions. And when I say millions, there's a lot of things to think about. Like maybe like there's like 5 transitions. Right? So one thing is that 1-1, which is very delayable, by the way. Very, very delayable. So you have to be careful about that. And the second one is 1-2, which is very, very fast. So you have to be careful about that as well. And let's just see that in action, like 1-2 instead. But if you do sidestep left, this will beat it. It will beat it. So it is really good. But you just have to be careful about how you punish this sometimes. So if you sidestep and instantly try to punish, this will usually catch you. So a sidestep into an instant button is a punish unless you're really fast. You can't be really fast here, right? The second will usually check you. So you have to be careful about that, but there's also a third hit to think about. So let's say you sidestep block and wait. You can't really do anything about the second hit because the third hit also exists. So something like this, into 1, 2, and 2. That's the third hit. Something like this, sidestep block, I'm waiting, I try to punish, and let's say I'm a bit late, and I get hit because of the third hit now, right? If you do react fast enough, you can hit him out of it, but you won't really get anything too much as a reward because of the aerial hit. If you wait this out, it is launch punishable. You can actually launch this. But if you wait it out and he doesn't do anything, because Victor players sometimes don't do anything after the second hit, because it's also a mix-up if he finishes it or not, yeah, there you go. Gets away for it scot-free, right? More or less. So that is very, very important to realize. Another follow-up. But another follow-up you also have to realize exists is a 1-1 plus 2, which is a very common follow-up because it's a high and it's plus and it's tracking. So this you will avoid by sidestepping, but if you sidewalk, this will catch you, right? Do not sidewalk. Sidestep into a block and you will block this and you're going to be minus. If you sidestep duck, you will avoid this, obviously, right? But the sidestep into a duck sequence might be really, really good, but you will be caught by a lot of things. The reason I'm telling you guys to not sidestep duck it, but sidestep block instead, is because Victor has a lot of options to actually catch you sidestepping here. A lot of options. One of the moves that he catches you with also got buffed. I'm going to talk about it in a little bit. But you have to be careful with all of these situations, and the Victor player can just press a 2 button as well, just to very, very easily catch you. This button right here, which is the sidestep catch button, more or less. He doesn't need to do this anymore, by the way, but you guys can see how much this tracks, right? It literally catches you back there. Literally, it catches you back there. You cannot do anything about this. You can interrupt it with a jab, but as I already talked about, you can't really jab here anymore as consistently, right? That's why they did this, I guess. You can't really jab here anymore. So, yeah, we have to be very, very careful. Very careful about the situation now. One funny thing also is that you can kind of sidestep into an instant button just so you don't get mixed up by one's follow-ups. So what you can do is press sidestep, and let's say you press a jab, right? Sidestep and instant jab. You can kind of get a float for the high and punish most of the other moves as well. But one thing which is absolutely hilarious is that if they do finish the 1-1, let's say they just finish it, the 1-1, the second move here, has a crushing. So you can't actually do any high here. You can kind of mash a string, like a 1-2, for example. That can be good. But this is gonna be very, very awkward to do sometimes, right? It can be very, very awkward to do. As you guys can see, it looks very weird. If you guys have a good button to press here to avoid this, that would be good. So sidestep into an instant button is not that bad of an option here. But also remember, you will get countered by his other moves. Gotta remember that. Also, one interaction. I want you guys to see this. You guys think that the high crushing here is a little bit BS, right? Now this is BS. This. So that sometimes whiffs. You guys can see. There we go. Now that's BS. There we go. Victor, right? Well, not Victor. Like an 8. Good representation. But yeah, you have to be very, very careful in the situation. Now let's talk about one of the moves that actually catches the sidestep, which also got buffed, which is EI down 1. So this move used to be very, very strong in Season 2, and now it's even better. So this was one of the OP moves they added in Season 2, by the way. And they didn't really change this. They actually buffed it in Season 3. So this went from -2 to 0. So this used to be -2 frames. Now it's 0, but the distance actually increased. So one good thing is that pushback is higher, but it doesn't really matter sometimes, especially at the wall, which is gonna be most of the situation this will be used in. But this is also one of the things this move has usability for. You can't actually use a sidestep to get away from this move. You have to sidewalk this move. And even then, it's very, very awkward. It sometimes changes sides. You have to get a weird back turn punish. You know, it's awkward, basically. So, sidestep block will still work against it, obviously, because you're just block this and, you know, continue playing the normal neutral game. But this is just one of the options they have. The 2 is also one of the options they have, and obviously they can also just continue pressuring you forever, which Victor players love, going into stance, from a stance to a stance, and then continue pressuring you. So you have to be really careful, really, really careful, right? So, yeah, these were one of the biggest changes in my opinion. So you have, I had to, let's summarize some of the changes, right, and some of the things I talked about. So the biggest changes in my opinion was the new move covering the weak side, which is sidestep right. In the neutral, it's going to be very, very good whenever you, let's say you want to sidestep while running 2 or while running 1+2, which is the double load. I think it was in Season 2 that they gave him as well. That's a very, very strong change, so you have to worry about that, which also goes into his stats, which you also have to worry about. I already talked about the mind game there. The biggest thing is the double mid check that you have to really, you know, look out for. Next thing was the EI1 buffs and the EI4 buffs. They actually complement each other really, really well, because you can't really jab now. And since you can't jab, now you're forced to use other stuff, which involves a little bit of movement and a lot more risk. Right? A lot more risk. Let's say you power crush there, which, you know, it can be risky. Let's say you do something else, like a parry, or a Yoshimitsu might flash or something else. You're kind of forced to do some different stuff, and the mind games are a little bit different. But you can still deal with it in a way, but it's gonna be in Victor's favor no matter what, especially since the low is so low risk. It's like -12 instead of -13. While also having a high follow-up you have to worry about, so there's an additional mind game there. So, yeah. And the other one, which I also talked about at the end, which is the EI down 1. EI down 1 will be used a lot at the wall, so I advise you guys to be very careful about this. Very, very careful. Because this move will be used at the wall a lot, and the increased pushback will not matter here. I talked about that this move has increased pushback now. But this, at the wall, doesn't matter. Because it's just gonna be 0 now, it's just gonna be a pure buff instead of the slight nerf on the pushback in the neutral. So you have to be very careful, because this is also a wall splat. This also hits grounded, by the way. Also tracks decently well, as I already showcased. And this will be used after the wall combo. So after a Victor player, let's say, gets you to the wall and does this wall combo, this is gonna be used very often after he spikes you like this. And this wall combo, by the way, is one of the most busted wall combos in the game, if you ask me. I don't know why this still exists. But this move will be used to not only mix you up as a mid, but also catch you grounded, flip you over, but also if you block it, it's 0. So it's gonna be one of the most busted moves Victor players can use there, and if you do block it, you have to remember it's 0 now, and the situation is a slightly more in Victor's favor. It already was, but now it's even more in Victor's favor. But yeah, I think that's it. The other changes were like slight changes of like hitbox changes and bug fixes and stuff like that. Nothing too much. I didn't explain entirely everything and every option, which, you know, it's just a season 3 speed lap. But yeah, that is gonna be it for today, YouTube. And once again, thanks for watching, everyone. Big thanks for watching. Hopefully this was helpful, and I'll see everyone in the next one. Till then.